During the 80s and 90s, Japan would lead the video game market, and their presence in North America was generally by way of subsidiaries. Development companies founded in the United States were a bit more rare, but they did exist. One of those companies would start in the heart of United States, Texas, and would publish some well-known games for the Nintendo Entertainment System such as Double Dragon and Battletoads. That company was Tradewest. How did Tradewest come to be and where are they now? Let's find out on what happened to Tradewest. Leland Cook was born December 19, 1933 in Abilene, Texas. He would graduate from Texas A&M with a Bachelor's of Science in Agricultural Economics. This was a long ways from video game development, so how did Leland get to this point? Well, Leland had a drive to pursue entrepreneurial opportunities and would start buying businesses in 1972. His first business opportunity was the purchase of a small convenience store in downtown Corsicana in 1972. In 1975, he would purchase a vending machine company. These businesses were doing pretty good, and his son Byron came up with the idea to get in on the latest craze in the 80s video games. Along with his dad Leland, they would form Tradewest in 1985. The company would initially manufacture and market coin-operated arcade machines. Their first game to release in North America was SNK's Alpha Mission. Leland was as American as they come, and the Japanese developer SNK loved working with him so much, they included him as a character called Colonel Cook who needed to be rescued in the video game Akari Warrior. Tradewest would release Akari Warrior in North America in 1987. They would also bring over the arcade game Victory Road in 1988. They were making a name for themselves but felt the home console market was the future, so they would shift away from coin-operated arcade machines in the late 80s. In 1987, they would purchase Cinematronics, a company based in California. Even though Cinematronics had success with their arcade release of Dragon's Lair and Space Ace, they would spend 4.5 years in Chapter 11 bankruptcy filings. The acquisition by Tradewest would finally resolve this. Tradewest initially wanted to rename Cinematronics to Westron, but when that name was already taken, they settled on the Leland Corporation. With the acquisition came some trouble. Major League Baseball had contested the use of the phrase World Series in Cinematronics' World Series The Season video game, forcing them to rename it to Baseball The Season. John Rowe, the previous executive vice president of SNK's US division, was brought on to run the Leland Corporation. The same year, 1987, Tradewest would become an official licensee of Nintendo, something very rare at the time. This allowed them to start releasing games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. The first release was the famous Double Dragon. Double Dragon was an instant success in North America and would sell out in the first 2 weeks, according to Toys R Us. Over the next 7 years, they would release a decent amount of video games for the NES, Super NES, Game Boy, and Sega Genesis. Some of their more well-known titles are Battletoads, released for the NES in 1991. They would also be given the opportunity to release Battletoads in many different formats and forms. There were Battletoads and Double Dragon released in 1993 for the NES, Super NES, Game Boy, and Sega Genesis, Battletoads and Ragnarok's World for Game Boy, and Battletoad and Battle Maniacs for the Super Nintendo in 1993. They would also release some sports games such as Jack Nicholson Golf for the Super Nintendo and Troy Aikman NFL Football for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. In 1994, Tradewest would be sued by Philips and Lockheed Sanders over video game art. There are a lot of companies filed in this complaint, however, I was never able to find exactly what they meant about video game art. It looks to me like Tradewest was selling arcade machines in Illinois, and Philips was alleging they had no rights to do so due to lack of contract. It does appear the lawsuit was originally dismissed because what I found was the appeals filing. That'd be my best guess, but if you know more details about this lawsuit, please post in the comment section below. Tradewest would be acquired by Wms Industries in April 1994. A new company would be formed called Wms Entertainment Incorporated with John Rowe, Leland, and Byron Cooks at the helm. But only 2 years later, WMS Industries would remove themselves from the video game industry and pawn off Wms Entertainment to Midway Home Entertainment. Midway would use the company as a stepping stool into the home console market. Midway would keep the offices in Texas and California open and would continue to employ Byron Cook and John Rowe. These offices would publish video games for GameCube, the original Xbox, and the PS1. However, following a management buyout of Midway UK in 2009 along with the France publishing division, they would rename the company to Tradewest. However, by 2013, the new Tradewest company had vanished from the video game industry, marking the final end to the name Tradewest. Leland Cook would pass away on November 6, 2009. His legacy with Tradewest will live on forever, and we can still enjoy a round of Double Dragon and be thankful our childhoods were blessed with this game. Byron Cook would go on to become a state representative for Corsicana, Texas from 2005 to 2019. During this time, Byron would be involved in a couple lawsuits alleging a scheme where he would lie to investors about the percent of the finder's fee. There's a lot more involved with these lawsuits, but since they don't have anything to do with Tradewest, I'll leave it at that. John Rowe would go on to found High Moon Studios and serve as CEO until 2001. Tradewest, like a lot of companies from the 80s and 90s, just couldn't survive. However, their games on the NES, Super NES, Game Boy, and Sega Genesis will live on forever. Next time you play Double Dragon or Battletoads, remember to thank a good old boy from Texas for bringing them to North America. Thanks for joining me on What Happened to Tradewest. If I missed any key information about the company you feel should have been included in this video, please post in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, like the video, and follow me on social media. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.